Surge 2 and Code Vein are both Souls-inspired games that launched close to each other, forcing most gamers to choose one. I have played both extensively and wanted to compare the two. Which one is better and which one should you play? Let's start with the story. I won't spoil anything, don't worry. I would put Code Vein above Surge 2 in this category. Code Vein tells somewhat interesting story about the revenants, which are basically something like vampires, and struggles they have to go through just to get some blood beads so they can stay alive. There is also interesting story about the queen and successors, so overall Code Vein does alright story-wise. Surge 2 has similar writing like the first game. Nanobots are again the problem and story is pretty much everything you would expect. Let's save humanity with technology and then it all turns to shit, of course. You meet a special little girl on the plane that survives the crash and then spend all game chasing her. Add a bit of religious fanatics and you have mashed up story without much interesting lore or anything else for that matter in my opinion. Overall, I didn't find anything new or interesting when it comes to Surge 2 story. Both games also have very uninteresting NPC characters and side quests. From Code Vein I can't remember a single character I came across during my travels. Companions are mildly interesting, but other characters are just plain bad. Their stories told through vestiges weren't interesting to me as well. Side quests in Code Vein are pathetic. Finish the area and then revisit the same area to find some characters that require meaningless tasks to be completed for crappy rewards. Low effort as hell. Surge 2 has some interesting side quests, but a lot of the others fall flat and are buggy as hell. Iron Mouse quest is awesome though. Witness quest with Mysterious Stranger is also quite interesting for the most part. Unfortunately in Surge 2 these quests can be very buggy depending on the progression and story turning points, so in the end it can lead to frustrating outcomes. Still much better than Code Vein.
Oh, and yes, I am still on the dating market.
Character creation and customization is much better in Code Vein. In Surge 2 we get decent enough basic character creator, but Code Vein offers so many options when it comes to creating your character, it is insane. From masks, face paints to changing colors of every small detail. Absolutely amazing, but there is a lot of clipping issues too, unfortunately. When it comes to more important part, which is character building and progression, both games have strong case and I can't put one above the other in this category. Both systems are really good in my opinion and offer very good variety to what is possible and effective. Same goes for weapon and armor sets variety. There are so many things to choose from, it is amazing. Choice is an important thing in RPGs, maybe the most important thing, be it for quests, weapons, armor builds, etc. When it comes to gear and builds, there are plenty of choices in both games. As for level design, I would put Surge 2 as a better one in this category, although both fall flat. Surge 2 areas are somewhat open world but very restricted. They are much better than Surge 1, simply because there is much more diversity and different types of locations to explore. Areas are, for the most part, well connected as well. Code Vein's biggest problem is that every location is too linear. Some of them look interesting, but for the most part it is bland and full of cheap deaths. Hallway Simulator 2019. They are also not connected in any proper way and are too different to each other to have anything in common or make any sense. Both games have the same problem with a lot of their areas. They are overly convoluted and frustrating as hell to navigate in some cases. In Surge 2 good example is 8 Command and Code Vein has the Cathedral. Bloody hell these two gave me a headache. Now for the most important part, and that is combat. There is no doubt that objectively Surge 2 has much better combat than Code Vein. It is far more dynamic, plays out better, looks cool, animations are great and brutality is a big factor for me as well. Although I have to say that developers were a bit lazy with Surge 2 because most of the moves from Surge 1 are copied over, same as some armor sets, weapons, and also finishing sequences need more polishing. Combat is somewhat improved from Surge 1, but it mostly plays out the same. Dodge, block, duck under, jump over attacks, parry, charge attacks, etc. It is melee only combat, so having all these options to play with your enemies is very nice. Amount of different combos and animations available for every weapon type makes for a very diverse experience, which isn't the case with Code Vein. There are still tracking attack frustrations, but less than before. Overall, combat is biggest selling point for Surge 2 in my opinion. Code Vein is more static and more similar to Dark Souls, but it just doesn't play out as well. Seems very unbalanced too. Spells devastate enemies from afar, while melee combat is backstab oriented for the most part. Parries are also very ineffective due to weird timing. Interesting thing in Code Vein is the drain system, where we drain Ichor with special attacks which we can then use for spells and skills. Overall, Code Vein has more complex combat system due to various types of attacks and spells, but it doesn't work as great as Surge 2's compact, limb-cutting, brutal and flashy system. I have tried many builds, but combat always ended up revolving around backstabs or long-range spells that are for the most part very similar, but just have different visual effects. There are also many spells that will never be used, but as I said earlier, choice is good, so there is that at least. Balancing remains a problem in Code Vein. For example, playing with companions is too easy mode. Playing solo is challenging, but gets frustrating as hell at times due to cheap deaths and one-hit wonder enemies that stun lock you in place. I was impressed at first with Code Vein's complex combat system, but after many hours it became uninteresting even with insane number of builds available. Bosses go in favor of Surge 2 because of the challenge and the way some of them play out. They are diverse and every major boss has some secret way in which we can kill them to get special weapon. Also they have multiple phases where strategies change in one way or another. In Code Vein, playing with companions makes bosses trivial, but are quite challenging when taken on solo. However, most of these boss fights play out the same. Get them down to about 50% health and then they go batshit crazy with attacks. It just isn't very interesting in the end and can lead to incredibly frustrating boss fights at times when playing solo. Code Vein has overall better art style and looks more appealing graphically. Surge 2 has issues with texture popping, muddy textures, and both games have frustrating loading times, at least on PlayStation 4 where I have played them. Surge 2 has much better enemy variety. Robots, nanites, humans equipped with all sorts of different gear are much more than you will get in Code Vein. Code Vein for the most part has same enemy types throughout the whole game that requires same strategy to beat. However, enemy aesthetic design is fantastic and most of them look so damn good, which negates a lack of variety a bit. So which one of these two games is better and which one is for you? I would say they are both the same quality, and in my reviews I would give both 7 out of 10, which would translate to good games. They play out differently even though they are both Souls type games. Art style is a huge factor as well when it comes to decision which one of these two would be better choice for you. For anime fans, Code Vein would be better choice in that case, it's more in their ballpark. If you do not care that much about story, companions, art style and just want good combat from start to finish, then Surge 2 is the game for you. Don't forget that this is my opinion only, so you might not agree with it. In the end, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one and everyone thinks everyone else's stinks.